So I was talking to this woman, right? And she's a Sagittarius, married to an Aquarius. It hasn't been long though. It's been like 6 months. Very, very new marriage. They dated for a while and then they got married. So she said to me, she said, Queen, he is an insufferable know-it-all. Every time I make a statement, we got to listen to Here Comes Mr. Know It All. And she's like, he's like a professor. He walks up with all these facts and figures and dates. And he's like, I didn't ask for any of this. She was like, he's constantly knowing it all. And I was like, well, but is he wrong now? Because if he's not wrong, then there's merit in what he's saying. But she's not the only one. I hear people on Facebook, I hear people on Instagram, or see people on Instagram, see people on Facebook, or hear people talking about it in general, and people always tell me, Aquarius are such know-it-alls. I hear that constantly. I also hear that about Virgos. I hear that Aquarius and Virgos are constantly knowing it all. But in our defense, a lot of times there's a reason for that. And I'm going to tell you why right after I do our introduction. Hey guys, it's me, it's Queen Osset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, pass it on to somebody else who might like it too, and stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to read 2 of my favorite comments from previous videos. If you would like to send me a donation or a gift, all of my PayPal information, my Amazon wish list is underneath this video. If you would like to get a reading done, my email is underneath this video. If you would like to become a patron, my Patreon is underneath this video. And if you want to get in contact with me, all my social media is also underneath the video. Okay? All right, guys. So, yeah, the Aquarius know-it-all. This is the thing you have to understand about the Aquarius. Number one, we don't know it all, and we know that we don't know it all. Because most of us are logical enough to be able to mathematically equate that that's probably impossible. I would think it's impossible for any one human being to know everything there is to know about everything. So we already know that part. As a matter of fact, usually if a topic comes up that I know nothing about, I don't speak on it. I don't speak on topics I don't know anything about. And the thing about it is that I won't fake the funk. Some people are fake like they know what you're talking about. I won't fake it. I'll let you know, like, my knowledge in this is limited. I'm going to tell you how much knowledge I have. 1st grade, 2nd grade, 5th grade. What kind of knowledge do I have where I don't know anything about this and you have to start with the basics? See, for me, that's not embarrassing to be able to admit, because I feel like once I've admitted that, I'm about to get some information. I'm about to get some knowledge to add to my know-it-all mental encyclopedia. So I'm happy to say, hey, I don't know anything about it. So Aquarius don't know everything about everything, but this is what it is. Aquarius know a lot about things that we're passionate about. So if it's a topic that we're passionate about, that we really care about, then we probably are going to know a lot about it. And I'm not just talking about a little something something. We've probably studied it, you know? Like, for instance, I don't know anything about auto mechanics. I know how to put oil in my car. I don't have a car anymore, but my old car, I knew how to put oil in it. And that was it. I knew how to put air in the tires, and pretty much that was all I knew. And I was content to be able to say, I don't know anything else. But if you ask me about crystals, if you ask me about magic, if you ask me about herbs, if you ask me about spirits, if you ask me about those things, I know volumes because that's all I do. Ever since I was a young girl, all I did was read books. And for the past like 20 years, most of those books have been about the topics that I talk to you guys about. That's what I do. I mean, I read 4 or 5 books at a time, and I've been doing that since I was little. My mom said before I could read, I would take down her books. And I find this to be very interesting because my favorite book, she said, was Mommy Dearest. And Mommy Dearest is a book about Joan Crawford and her daughter Christina and their turbulent relationship. And I found that to be very interesting that at 2 and 3, that was my favorite book. And when I grew up, my mother and I would have a turbulent relationship. So I'm like, was I foreshadowing what was going to happen without even knowing? I had no vocabulary at that point. But she said I would look at the pictures and I would, as I learned words, I would just say the words I knew. And she said over time, I knew more and more of the words. I started off with only recognizing like a, the, and color here and there, maybe like 4 words on the page. And the more I looked at the same books over and over again and went to preschool, went to kindergarten, she said eventually I read all of Mommy Dearest. I didn't really understand what they were talking about. I remember reading it though. And she talks about that all the time. But that was my thing. I would go to the library and get 9, 10 books, read them all, take them back and get 9, 10 more. So if I'm into something like tarot or, something like that, I know about it. And this is how Aquarius are. If we're into something, we're going to be very into it and we're going to know about it. And you can't come at us with no misinformation, because one of my pet peeves, and a lot of Aquarius told me is theirs too, one of them is misinformation. I can't stand people talking out their ass about something that they don't know anything about. So the Aquarius may seem like a know-it-all, but I think that it's just in the areas that we're passionate about. And we are quick to let you know if you give up some misinformation or some, you've omitted some important points, we are going to point that out. Now, over the years, I've taught myself not to say anything unless it's important, because that's where that know-it-all thing comes in. It's like anything I'm passionate about, I'm going to be given, the information. But what I've learned is only to do that when it's important. And I'm thinking that the first woman that said this to me, the one that's married to the Aquarius, I'm thinking maybe she hasn't figured that out yet because they just got married. So maybe she hasn't figured that out. Maybe he hasn't figured out yet. Maybe you ain't got to tell everything, and especially if the other person didn't solicit the information. So my thing is 9 times out of 10, if an Aquarius is being a know-it-all, it's because it's something that we know a whole lot about. And when we know about something, we know about it. We breathe it, we're in it, and this could be anything. It could be music. It could be, we're into politics. We're into debate. We're into art. Whatever we're into it. And it's a big chance we're going to know the history of it. We might know some different nuances about it. We probably read books and watched videos about it. A lot of us do know a lot about these things that we're passionate about. So I understand when people tell me Aquarius are know-it-alls, and I'm like, yeah, we are, because we know. And we get remember the misinformation thing I said? Oh my goodness. When somebody comes at me with misinformation, it really, really gets under my skin. Especially if I know about it and they're trying to tell me. This happens a lot. This happens a whole lot. People will come to me and try to tell me about spirituality. I've been studying this for 20 years. Astrology since I was like 5. Like, are you serious? It's kind of insulting. It is kind of insulting because it's like, if I was to go up to a brain surgeon and try to explain surgery to him, and he's like, little girl, I've been doing this since before you were born. What are you talking about? And I think that some of us do kind of take it that way. And maybe the people that we're talking to take it, that we're being arrogant. But it's not that. It's just the fact that we can't stand misinformation and we know what we're talking about. So I say to my Aquarius, do speak on it when it's really important or when the person asks you for the information. You know, if it's not important or they didn't ask you for the information, or, you can even say, I know a little bit about this. Do you want to know what I know? You can ask them and maybe they'll invite what you have to say. Like in the case of that husband and wife, I think that if he did that, she probably more often than not would be open to it. But for him to just interject it and come off, he knows it all, which he does know all about it, for her is very obnoxious. That's what she called it. She called it obnoxious. And I've heard other people call it obnoxious too. So I just say, if you're an Aquarius, consider that. And if you're dealing with an Aquarius, just remember that 9 times out of 10, it's just something that we know intimately and we know passionately. Please forgive our enthusiasm because we be into it, man. All right, now let's talk about the Queen. Okay, this is our first positive comment, and it came from Queen's Journey. Really cool Instagram name. Really cool YouTube name. Queen's Journey said, I just met a Gemini, and at first I was super excited, and now I'm just like, I don't trust him. I'm pulling away from him very fast. And I'm also dealing with a Libra, and I also hate his guts. Definitely going to break things off with both of them. I'm just going to focus on myself, blah. If you don't like both of them, I agree with you 100%. Toss them right back in the sea and you can fish out a couple more when you're ready. One thing I try to tell women is, when you're dating, don't just pick up the first fish that you see and latch on to that fish. If that fish is not working for you, toss it on back and find you another fish. Because the bottom line is that the things that you don't like right now are more than likely not going to change. You said you don't trust him. You find him to be sneaky. You hate the Libra. Those are things that probably won't change. So I'm with you 100%. I would throw them back, work on myself, and then move on. A lot of women feel this sense of desperation, like they have to hold on to a guy, and it's good that you do not feel that way, because it's not true. Move on. Yusef Lopez. What's up, Yusef? Yusef always talking smack. What did he say? He said, I bet you text her and said, girl, what the hell? Ha, ha, ha. Yusef is talking about the incident that happened to me on Halloween. So I'm going to tell you guys about it real quick and then read his comment again. On Halloween, I did some magic. I had some magic to do for myself and for my clients. I had a lot to do. Actually, I made 3 amulets. I made a grizz bag. I did some candle magic. It was a lot of stuff, because a lot of people that are into spell work love to catch the full moon, and we love to do magic on Halloween. And Halloween was on the full moon, so it was perfect. Anyway, so I did what I had to do, which took a couple hours. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to settle in and I'm going to chill. I'm going to eat my bonbons. I found some real bonbons. I've never even had them before. I just saw Peg Bundy eating them on Married with Children. But I found them here in Costa Rica. So I got a box of bonbons and I had some cake and I had some cheese doodles. And I was like, I'm going to lay here and eat some snacks and listen to ghost stories on YouTube. YouTube has a bunch of channels with ghost stories and mythologies and all kind of good stuff. So I was laying there. I had settled into this one channel. It had like 3 hours of ghost stories. So I had been listening and listening and listening, and they were good. So I'm listening to one of the stories. It gets to the part where like the person is like being stalked by the ghosts and they're coming around the corner and they're, the suspense is building up. And right when the jump scare was about to happen, my bed started shaking. And I was like, what is going on? So I was kind of in ghost mode because I've been watching this for hours. So I was in mental ghost mode. So I grabbed my protection crystal and I was like, oh, I'm thinking it's a poltergeist, okay? Or some kind of ghost or La Llorona or something crazy. I had been watching too many ghost stories. So I grabbed my crystal and then I text my daughter and I'm like, either we got a poltergeist or there was just an earthquake. And she was like, I'm pretty sure it was an earthquake. So I checked on Facebook on one of my expat groups, and they were all talking about how they had just felt the earthquake. But it was just the craziest timing, because I was right at that part when the shaking started. And it wasn't a bad earthquake, it was just some shaking, and then it just stopped. But it was enough to scare the hell out of me while I was listening to ghost stories. So I was telling people in the community section, I told this story and I put up one of the pictures of my Halloween costume. So Yusef wrote underneath that story, I bet when you text her, meaning my daughter, you said, girl, what the hell? Ha ha ha. So I was just like, yo, I knew immediately. I was like, it was either poltergeist or it was an earthquake. It was only one of the two things. You couldn't tell me it was anything else. And my daughter was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not poltergeist, Mom. My daughter is a Scorpio with an Aquarius moon and a Gemini rising. So she gets smart sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you little stinker. You act just like your mom. All right, so that was, let me see. Yep, that was our last positive comment. So come back soon because you guys already know that I have a lot more to say. See you later.